The Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm Steven Sakach here with my co-host, Mike Liwski, and our special guest today. So research from Harvard Business Review shows that 90% of top performers have high emotional intelligence, yet many organizations still focus primarily on technical expertise. So emotional intelligence, or EQ, is more than a leadership trait. It's kind of the foundation for trust, collaboration, and long-term success. And today, we're exploring how emotional intelligence can drive business performance, strengthen culture, and turn organizations into thriving communities. Mike, introduce our special guest today.
Oh, I'm absolutely delighted to, Stephen. We have with us today Jennifer Lemcke. She is the CEO of Weedman, and that is one of North America's largest lawn care franchise systems. They have over 700 locations in Canada, the US, and in the UK. Now, Jennifer is really well known for her dynamic leadership because she's able to blend strategic vision along with the topics that we really enjoyed talking about is human-centered leadership, which we know is key to emotional intelligence. She has been as well instrumental in cultivating a purpose-driven franchise throughout their whole system, infusing purpose into their culture, and that helps prioritize people, develop and create emotional intelligence as a key to their success. So we're really looking forward to diving into this topic with her today. Jennifer, welcome to our show. We are delighted to have you.
Thanks for having me. I'm just really thrilled to be able to talk about business and people for the next hour. So super excited.
Yes, this is always the highlight of my week, are the shows we do, being able to dive into these topics. So Jennifer, you've led one of the, as Mike said, one of the largest franchise networks through massive growth and transformation. From your experience, what role has emotional intelligence played in that success?
I would say it's probably the core of our success, along with a lot of other business systems and processes and all of that. But, you need that to run a good business and to be able to almost copy paste and allow it to go from market to market to market. What the other part of it is the part you really have to be intentional about. Like you can build a system, you can use a system, but to be really people focused, you have to be intentional. And how do you weave that through? We are a company that's very much known for, business planning, flowing through like SOPs and that type of thing like that. That's kind of a given. But I think where we may diverge from some others is that you can have the best systems in place, but if you're not intentional about people's success and really be focused on that. So, that is something that I kind of grew up. I grew up in the business. My dad bought his first franchise. He was a single unit territory from Des Rice, our founder. And he always said, he was an engineer by trade. And he always said, when I'm going to run my business, I'm going to run it like it was a big organization. I'm going to build the systems. I'm going to make sure I'm intentional about training, making sure that I onboard people. And he always kind of held true to that. And, as he became successful inside of the business, he then grew into one of Des's largest multi-unit franchisees. And that's when my husband and I got involved in the business. And as we were continuing to grow as just a franchisee, we were, faced with the realization we were kind of the first franchise to hit $1 million, to hit 2 million, to hit 10 million, to hit 20 million, to hit 30 million. And we were having to build a lot of systems along the way. And when I say systems, it's not just the financial systems to run a business. It's also the systems to onboard people. How do you bring people on? How do you become an organization that you can really hire for attitude instead of the technical knowledge. I think we mentioned that in the pre-show a little bit. Mm-hmm. So, I always come back to, I remember as we were growing in ops, before we started franchising, we dissected the book, The E-Myth. Have you heard of The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber? Mm-hmm. So that for us was a pivot change. Build the system so then you can hire anybody you want, anybody with a great attitude, because the system's there. You can teach them the technical skills, but you can't teach them the people skills. So go out and hire the right people. The right people are going to fit with your culture, the right fit for you that's going to bring you to that next level. So, if I go back to the story of my dad, that's when we approached Des and we bought the master rights to the U.S. And the reason I'm getting into a little bit of my story is just so that you can kind of understand the scope of where we came from. So as we bought the master rights to the U.S. to expand Weedman from Des, we partnered with Des, and things were just really great. We were growing, and I was kind of moved out of operations and really led the franchising side. My husband stayed in the ops for a few years, then joined me on the franchising side. Des unfortunately passed away, I'd say about 15 years ago. His wife was, Brenda, was very still involved in the business, but she approached us about 6 years ago to say, hey, would you consider buying out the master rights? So that's kind of where we transitioned from being a franchisee to a master franchisor to now owning the worldwide rights to the franchise. So, as I look back, even the best systems, it's all about the people, the franchisees that we brought on board, the employees that I have. And, it's been just an absolute incredible ride to our growth.
Yeah.
That point about intentionality.
How old were you when your dad first got
16.
16. Okay,
so I've grown up in the business. I did and never aspired when he got involved, never aspired. I never thought when we left Toronto and moved to Ottawa, and he said, I'm going to open up a lawn care franchise. And I was like, what? Wait a minute, I'm 16 years old. All my friends are here. I don't want to move to a new city. And so it was, he told me there was a family meeting. I just think he didn't invite me to the family meeting when we discussed it. So, I have the opportunity to work with my dad. He's my mentor. I work with my husband. That we could have a whole other podcast on that. But we understand our lanes and are very focused on our lanes. My daughter works with us now in the business. And I have a daughter who's my oldest, and I have two sons. The two boys kind of came in and out of the business a little bit, but they've kind of landed somewhere else for now. You never know. They may circle back. So I have three kids. I know you guys were talking about the kids. They probably gave me, raising those three kids was the best possible training and management that I could ever ask for. And, we could probably joke a lot about some of the language that we're using and being cool and all of that. So now I'm a grandmother. I have three grandchildren.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah. And that is truly, if you can get through all the attitudes of high school and university and you're on the other side, grandkids is the gift. Gift for being a parent.
Right. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I've got a 20-year-old and an 18-year-old. So
it's a little bit of time still.
A little bit of time, yeah. Yeah, I love it when guests also give us book recommendations too, because I know our audience loves to continue to feed on good guidance. So I think that the great point about the intentionality there, in people's success. I was hoping maybe we could dive in a little bit more, Jennifer, on leadership and relationships. Because it has been, commented on that leadership is really about relationships, not necessarily rank or title. And so I'm curious, and maybe your experience, or if you have examples, like how does an emotionally intelligent leader actually build trust, create connection, across a system as large as yours?
Yeah. So, it's a great question, and there's different ways you can go with that. And, I think when I first started in business, it's tough being the daughter of the CEO, right? And you're kind of trying to figure out your way. And one of the things that I always knew that I was willing to outwork anyone. That was something. So I think that was probably the core of who I am. I'm not the smartest person in the room, but I will outwork you. I will work day and night. And then you take that and you put in a position and you keep that kind of as your base. And now you just work hard and harder and harder for other people. And they see that. Your employees see that. It's kind of like talk the talk, walk the walk. I always knew I wanted to be that kind of a leader. I didn't want to be a leader that just dictated and said, this is what you need to do. I wanted to roll up my sleeves and be there, be in the trenches with my people, being my employees, but go beyond that, be with my franchisees. So I traveled a lot when we started franchising in the US, sitting at tables, building business plans with franchisees and their kids running around, and now seeing those kids getting involved in the business.
Right.
There was just no greater joy. So the hard work and being very committed to people's success and doing whatever it took, you create a bond, you create a trust with people. I would guarantee you could call any one of the franchisees or any one of my employees. They would know that I'm there. They pick up the phone. Doesn't matter what time of day or night. And that takes a big commitment at the leadership level to do that. But I wouldn't change it. It's who I am. And there are times you think, well, maybe I've given too much of myself, because you kind of lose. And, a lot of people talk about balance and these things. And I just came to a realization throughout my career and coaching other women. We're a predominantly male industry. So I get to talk to a lot of women, and a lot of people are constantly looking for this balance, and it doesn't really exist, this balance. It's one day you need to focus more on your family. Another day you need to put the business first. Another day you need to be a wife first before all else. So there's, I guess the balance is kind of off keel, but if you're focused on doing the right thing for people, I think that's a good guiding light to allow you to maneuver through some of the hard times and the good times, right?
Yeah. Life is really about, juggling while you're on a pogo stick. So
that's right.
Hard to find a balance at that point in time. So I guess maybe delving into the emotionally intelligent side of things a little bit more. And it sounded like maybe one of the keys to the organization's success has been in the identification and putting, the people's success first. So I'm curious, how do you identify and develop emotional intelligence in the leaders throughout the organization? What do you use? Are there gatherings? What does that kind of look like internally?
I think, as a company, it's important to put a solid vision and a mission in front of people. Mm-hmm. And as people align behind that and align their values and their mission alongside that, you kind of create this atmosphere where everyone's pulling together and working together. So that creates a lot of trust with people, both at the franchise level and the employee level. If everybody's coming into work every day and they know what they got to get done to achieve results, I think that's a place where you're able to create people that are emotionally intelligent. They kind of have their eye on the ball, and they don't need to focus on, well, what is it? What do you want out of life? What do you want out of your business? We kind of all know. That's every day you walk in, So now you can really hone in on tweaking what you need to do to get there. How do we maneuver, and how do we help people to get there? And I think, it allows you, if you don't have to worry about every day, well, what am I doing today? You can really focus in on what people are telling you and how they're telling you, and cueing in on the signals and working through that. There are times where you're being told something from somebody, but that's not the real reason. And you got to dig a little bit deeper to get into that reason. Yeah. So I think understanding that, like, kind of all of these other things that are over here, like the check boxes, the systems, and the goals and the visions, and that's check, and really listening to identify some of the gaps that are getting them there allows you to be very intentional.
And that takes so much time, right? And I was actually thinking of one of our past guests, Patrick Cowden. He would always say that slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And with the pace of life today, we want to be in such a hurry. But like what you said, to really be able to stop and listen and dig takes time, and it takes care for sure. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So Jennifer, one of the things we kind of dive in here on the show is going into the systems. What kind of organizational systems or rituals do you have that helps cultivate, that connection or that emotional growth, or prioritizing, emotional intelligence some way? You kind of mentioned onboarding, maybe there's some systems there. We know when you can build like that emotional intelligence into your systems, you're going to see 63% higher engagement, 37% lower turnover. Is there anything for our audience that, you can think of that might help them when they're building, their systems or their franchises out?
Assuming that you've got all the things that are the technical side of the business taken care of. So I'm going to assume that that's done. If we start with a relationship with a new franchisee, as an example, it's important to vet out to make sure that the fit is right. That not only will we will meet their vision of where they want to be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. And understanding what that is important, because as you go through the franchise development cycle and awarding a franchise, you need to understand that. So really starting there to ask the right questions throughout the relationship. Like right away, you're starting to build a relationship, because that's what for me, for franchising or even building a business is about the relationship. Mm-hmm. You got to assume I've got everything else, but now we've got to build that relationship. We got to build that trust. And as you go through new franchise training and onboarding, you keep coming back to their vision and how this is going to align to their vision. So, decisions are made throughout your business cycle. And if you don't have that kind of relationship and the way to say, hey, remember you said this was important to you? Well, if you make this decision right now, this is going to take you off track of achieving that. So that's like, you have to really invest in understanding where the person wants to go, so you can align the next few years with them, and then eventually, a thriving business. We have been able to take a lot of people and make them into millionaires. That's what we've done in the lawn care. We're this little gem part of an industry that has repeatable business, and that we have the systems, we know how to do that. But it's got to align with your vision of your company. If your vision is not to work hard and just, it's going to come easy, that's not us. So we need to understand that at the front end, because we're just going to create this conflict continuously. Well, you told me I was going to be a millionaire, which we never do, but you just can't do that. I have to set expectation as well. If we're a right fit, you're going to work really, really hard until you get that first employee. And then we're going to need to onboard that employee together and make sure we get the right person in that position that's going to continue to drive your business forward to your goals that you set out. So I guess it all boils down to really listening to people, really understanding where people want to go. And life changes, where you started 5 years ago may not be the same. So having check-in points continuously. And that's something that I would say, we do well on our yearly checkpoint. We do a business plan with them, and we do 5-year and 10-year business plans with our franchisees. And we do check-ins along the way. Are we still on par with where you want to be? Is it the same as it was last year? Or things change? Have you had children, grandkids? Are you looking to retire? Do you have a child that wants to come in the business that you weren't sure if they were going to come in the business? So let's adjust to that and really kind of build out. And I feel like that's something that I learned from my dad, and that I've been able to continue to bring into the system, and the employees get that. We just, we have franchise business coaches that work with franchisees, and I could go to any one of their meetings and listen in, and I know that they would be talking the same language, be along the same lines, asking the same question, because we just kind of all grew up together doing this.
So I want to maybe delve into that a little bit more, because in our world today, business world, there is so much data, and that even for ourselves as a marketing agency, we're a performance marketing agency, we really key in on data, and it's so easy to perhaps forget the humanity component, or even the people component. So you mentioned balance a little bit earlier. There's data, and then there's empathy. Wanting both of those to exist. How can both data and empathy coexist when it comes to making some kind of a decision? Not just, I guess, leaning on the data itself.
Yeah, the data is a big factor, though, and it's how you use the data. We track everything. I mean, I could show you spreadsheets. We know closing rates daily. Inbound, outbound, every campaign possible. If we want to tie in the marketing, I have a dashboard that I look at every week, and I'm able to go in. And so we use that a lot to be the foundation of our conversations. So first off, you have to have trust. You can't use data and just come in, wham, hey, you're not performing here. There's got to be trust that they know that I'm looking at the data in a lens to make them better. And that's so important that you establish that with the franchisee. So by building out the business plan on a yearly basis, it's not me putting out their goals, it's them. They're working with their team. We're doing reviews of their business plan. They're putting their goals up there. And what we do is we help to hold them accountable in a very compassionate, empathetic way. But you got to remind them, this is your goal.
Right.
So, empathy is the core, but you got to be results driven. Otherwise, you're not going to grow the company and create opportunities for people around you. I always say a company that's not growing is not creating opportunities. If you're not going forward, you're going backwards. Yeah. There's status quo is not. And if you have A players on your team, you got to be growing. So there's empathy rolled into that, but there's got to be a scoreboard, and there's got to be measurements, and there's got to be a goalpost, right? Yeah. You win or lose. And we do that very, very well, all while throwing empathy into those conversations. So I would say, for us, we use numbers a lot. And we use it sometimes to stir the pot to create, competition between people. But we do it in a very, very subtle, very loving way. It's just all in the goal to be better.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's the key, right? That both need to be ingredients. It can't just be the data alone. I love your point too about goalposts. I often joke around like what soccer would look like if there weren't, goals at the end, right? People would probably be kicking the ball, and it would be sort of like keep away. But at a certain point, you just get tired out, right? We got to be moving towards, like you said, that shared vision and those goals.
we've got an audience question here. Let's go ahead and take that. How do you help new or young employees feel confident and supported?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're in a hybrid world, and I do have some remote people, so it is more difficult with this whole remote work.
Yeah.
And we're not perfect at it, definitely not perfect, but we're trying to be intentional on getting better. Just creating an opportunity to have those, weekly check-ins with their direct reports, making sure that they're heard, asking them in meetings to give input, helping guide them, correction. The best coaches out there are coaching during practices, not in the flow of the game. Like they're coaching, but they're not correcting quite yet. You do that during practice time. So, we've got a meeting. I got a meeting right after this, and we're doing our practice sessions for conference. We have our big conference coming up, and it's our big event. It's our big event of the year. And, we have usually about 600 people that attend the conference. So we're going to be practicing and practicing and practicing up until the time that we hit the show goes live. And I think that is a way to help people understand this is coaching moments. These are how we do this. This is how we prepare for game time. And this is where we need to get all the questions out, all the insecurities, unsureties, and get them out now. So that's, I don't know if I answered the question. We're not perfect at it, but we try really hard.
Yeah. Coaching is key. And like you said, praise, or maybe you didn't say this, but I would say, praise in public, and then, kind of, critique in private. So that's really where the growth happens.
Right.
Then you can kind of get another chance to see it. So as one other topic, Jennifer, that we love to talk about, and even as an agency, we think it's so critical, and that's the topic of purpose. There was a study that was done not too long ago by Gallup about organizations that are purpose driven, and just sort of the study found that they do outperform the competition remarkably by over 42%, and as well it aids in their profitability and then retention of employees. I think as you were talking earlier about vision, it gets purpose has that capability of getting everyone sort of rowing in the same direction. So when it comes to purpose at Weedman, for example, how has that shaped the organization? Do you have a stated purpose? Like, how has it maybe aided you in your growth?
Yeah. So, it's definitely, I shouldn't say evolve, but it has evolved just because of the needs of the company as you grow. So our vision is to be $1 billion company. We're almost halfway there. Next year we'll be halfway there. Wow. To be $1 billion company, that you have to have full alignment. So I came out a few years ago and created this vision. And one of the things you got to be careful, I can create this vision. Well, the vision is my vision. Right, it's not everybody else's vision. So how do you align your vision, their mission, their purpose to get there? And you got to make people understand, well, if we get there, all of this is going to happen. So you got to continuously align everyone's, strategies. And I think in the end, money's money. And when you wake up and you put your 2 feet on the ground, what's your purpose? I know my purpose is to help try and make people the best that they can be. Mm-hmm. And if I create opportunities and I'm growing, and as business owners, if we're doing that, we're creating all of these opportunities. And you talk about stories about employees, that I've had some of my employees over 30 years with me, and I have young new talent coming in, and I have over 30-year employees. And we, I've been part of them buying houses and buying new cars and seeing their kids buy houses and buy new cars. And to know that you're a part of that, and as an entrepreneur, that's purpose. So being $1 billion is my vision of the company, but along the way, there's a whole lot of purpose happening. And that is what makes me excited to put my 2 feet on the ground every day. It's not necessarily to be $1 billion, it's everything else around it, if that makes sense.
100%, right? It definitely is the driving kind of motivational force.
Yeah.
Thinking about like the local franchise owner, what do you think, like when they're interacting with their customers? I'm thinking about these YouTube videos I see sometimes where the lawn is like just, overgrown crazy. And then you see someone come in there and just clean it all up. But there's a lot of times there's a reason why, that lawn has, gotten overgrown, and it impacts people's personal lives, with their health, or something happened to a loved one, things like that. Do you hear a lot of those kind of stories from your owners? And especially in your conference and stuff that comes up, I imagine some of those things get heard.
Yeah. So we, one of the things we track is retention rate. It's really the goal post on good customer service, and definitely your Google reviews and all of that. And we truthfully went through a period in time where the brand was suffering a little bit. We've gone through some legislative issues in Canada. They banned pesticides. So that was a very big challenge, and there's regulations that are facing small businesses all the time. But we definitely had our challenges inside our niche. And so there was definitely a pivot that needed to happen in educating our customer. Our customers, with traditional products want weed-free. Well, in Canada, we can't provide weed-free. We can't eliminate them. We can control them. We can bring down. So understanding and creating a new vision and a narrative for the franchisees and the customer on expectations was definitely a challenge at times. So for us, our technicians get to go out and be outdoors and working with customers. When I started my career, that's where I started. I was out on the lawns applying. So I know what it feels like to have a run and to be sweating all day and out working. But the customers, add flavor to your day when you get to talk to them and meet them, and you're meeting their expectations. And so I look at it every day, our frontline employees going out and they're beautifying their surroundings, beautifying, customers' home, adding value to customers' homes. We find when economy becomes unstable, we're kind of unscathed in that area, because people tend to not take as big vacations and, stay home more. So they tend to put more money into their homes. There's studies out there that, green and beautiful landscapes create a better emotional connection for people to be outside. So all of that plays into, and our marketing plays into. Right now we're kind of, our marketing has settled into, we're playing a game, and it's the lawn care game. So it's been great, and we're having a lot of fun with that. There's a lot of places you can go, different sports and analogies we can use. So that's been fun. And I think the customer is, I think our creative and what the customer's expectation, they're kind of marrying together, and we're really liking where we're at right now.
Yeah, if you haven't checked those commercials out, you can go to YouTube, and it's Weed Man for the Win, right? Is the campaign slogan. So some of them are about golf. Very, very entertaining. But I love that point, Jennifer, beautifying the world. That could go in so many different directions,
right.
It's not just about the lawn, but really it's about the impact, the emotion that your organization can have on the world and on the people that you service. So that's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I think when you keep that, like, if you're able to keep that front and center with your, like you said, your technicians, everybody, that's how you're able to lead without, being there. Is like, if our mission is beautifying the world, they're going to make decisions based upon all of that, and usually for the better. So Jennifer, one of the questions we always ask people on the show is some form of this. It's, what role does love play in business?
A lot. Yeah, a lot. It truly does. I think you have to have a love for what you do. You have to have a love for the people that are around you, that you go to work every day. We spend more time at work with the people that we work with. So there has to be love and trust and grace extended to the people around us. So I think love touches every part of a business. And if it doesn't, I don't know how you could be happy going into work every single day. I wouldn't even understand. There's not one piece of me that doesn't love every one of my employees that I work with. There's not a piece of me that doesn't love every franchisee that we have. Some create more challenges than other, for sure, but there's an underlying love and trust. And, I guess I never really thought about it the way we just kind of, or the question that you asked. It should be all over the place, because I think if you don't have love, then you can't be enjoying what you're doing.
Yeah. And even
just trying to weave it into your next conference.
Well, and you mentioned some of those employees make it more challenging than the others, but you also mentioned the grace, and that's like this part of love too, is to be able to deal with that with grace. And that, may challenge you, it may challenge your employees. But, if you've got that connection as a goal, or, you're going to have more grace in those scenarios. Definitely. Right. Yeah. I love asking that question because, people don't quite really think about it until it's just right there. And we get all kinds of great creative answers on that.
For sure. Yeah. A lot of varied answers. Yeah. And honestly, we feel it's probably a topic that doesn't get discussed enough, within organizations, maybe. Some tend to maybe shy away from it. So, Jennifer, really, we want to thank you so much. That was amazing. For those that want to learn a little bit more about Weedman, or even learn a little bit more about your leadership approach and connect with you, where would you like them to go?
Well, if they have questions directly, they can email me at jennifer.lemcke at weedman.com, and I would entertain any questions. And obviously at Weedman, you can reach my team or any of our franchisees if you're looking for service. And if you're looking for a franchise, definitely email me directly. I'll get you to the right person.
It's a great organization, right? You'd be heading in a good direction.
Yeah, no, we have great franchisees. It's funny, back to your question on love, and I know we got to wrap up, but every year
we've got a couple minutes.
Okay, our conference is coming up, and I give away some of the awards, and it's known now. They always put a box of Kleenex up on the podium for me because I'm crying. I'm so happy to be giving these awards away, and I know that the nominees, some of them that aren't getting, I'm feeling so bad that they're not getting this award, and I keep telling you, it's just an honor to be nominated, and the winner, just being so happy for people that are succeeding, and it's so nice to see, standing ovations and the peers really happy for people that are succeeding. So it's great.
I love that you've got the box of Kleenex there, because they know, I mean, that's love, it's going to come out your, when you're sitting up there and in front of, I don't know how many hundreds of people, but
yeah.
Jennifer, thank you for being on the show today and the conversation. Thanks to our audience for tuning in. If this inspired you to lead with empathy or authenticity, share it with a friend or colleague who believes in building people and profits. We'll see you next time on the Bliss Business Podcast.
Thank you so much to you both.
Yeah.